Hi, my name is Sally Compton and I'm the Executive Director here at Think Wild.
Yeah, so my name is Pauline Baker, and as Sally just said, I'm the Director of Wildlife Rehabilitation. I've been working in wildlife rehabilitation for about 5 years and recently moved from Wildlife Center of the North Coast. So actually Sally will be taking you on a tour of the hospital today, and you will be seeing me running around kind of facilitating animal care, and then a little bit later we will be allowing you a sneak peek at some animal treatments.
So welcome to the Think Wild Wildlife Hospital. Like Pauline said, we're going to be going on a little bit of a virtual tour here, and the first stop is the hospital intake room. So here at Think Wild, we get over 1,000 calls every year on our wildlife hotline. And so these calls can be about wildlife conflicts, injuries. A lot of times during the summer and spring, we get calls about orphaned animals. So currently Think Wild is accepting small mammals and raccoons. In the future, we hope to be able to accept raptors, including eagles, hawks, and owls, songbirds, waterfowl, and a large variety of mammals. We are currently fundraising for outdoor wildlife enclosures so that we can care for all these different kinds of animals and help support the wildlife rehabilitation community here in Central Oregon. So this is Think Wild's treatment room. This is where we would provide the initial triage and treatment for animals that come under our care. An initial exam might look like something like taking their weights, their measurements, doing a body exam to see if there's any kind of obvious injury. And then a lot of times we'll also give them some subcutaneous fluid just to get them hydrated and make them feeling a little bit better. So this room is also where we would do some surgical procedures with our volunteer rotating veterinary staff. And so some examples of this might be putting an animal under anesthesia for surgery, taking blood samples for blood testing, and then also if we need to do any kind of necropsy, if an animal were to pass away, we wanted to find the cause of death.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more quiet here just because we do have patients inside, but this is our ICU, our intensive care unit. This is where we bring patients that need very critical care or they need to be quarantined from other animals. An example is that we actually have 3 raccoons here right now. We need to keep these in quarantine so that we prevent them from spreading any kind of disease to other animals.
This is the Think Wild laundry room, and honestly this is probably where us and our volunteers will be spending most of our time. Every animal has to have their bedding changed almost every day, and so as you can imagine we'll have quite a few different sheets, blankets, and pillowcases running through this. And now we're actually going to go into our x-ray diagnostic room, so you can follow me in here. So Think Wild is very grateful to have had a digital radiography system and x-ray generator donated to us. This is very important because the act of transporting the wild animal from here to a veterinary clinic for an x-ray diagnostic test can be very, very stressful on that animal. This is our animal kitchen, so this is where Think Wild staff and volunteers do all of the diet prep and nutrition for all of our different wildlife patients. As you can see here in our fridge, I'll open this up. We have quite a few different kinds of foods depending on the animal. You can see we have some raccoon diet in here. And then especially when we have some intensive care patients or babies, we use a lot of these different kinds of formulas.
So this is our small mammal room. I'm going to be talking quieter again just because we do have animal patients in here. This is where we would put some of our baby mammals such as squirrels, chipmunks. If we were to get some skunks in at a later date, we could have the babies in here. You can see that they're all in kind of their individual cages because we do like to keep the groups separate just in case they come in with, maybe they have an infection or a disease or something like that.
So this is our volunteer break room. This is where volunteers can go to eat their lunches or just take a break. We also have a volunteer calendar up here for different events. And so it's always important, obviously, to have a separate area where we can kind of talk a little bit more quietly and not stress out the animals that are here in the hospital. So although this room doesn't look like much right now, it will be our baby songbird room. It's still currently under a little bit of construction, but you can see we had some great volunteers that made us these songbird enclosures for inside. And then we also have our songbird feeding chart set up, some catching nets. Eventually this room will be very, very full of orphan songbirds, songbirds that were caught by cats, all different kinds of different scenarios. Alright, now that we've had a good look at the inside of the hospital, I'm going to take you on a tour of the property and explain our need for the outdoor wildlife enclosures. So even though we had to put some things on hold due to COVID-19, we were really fortunate to have some at-home projects for our volunteers. So you can see some of those projects right here.
This is a duck hutch box, which is how we will be transporting some baby ducklings. And then we also have some a little bit larger songbird enclosures as well. And so we've got about 4 acres of property here at the Wildlife Hospital. You can see it kind of goes all the way back to that far tree line. We'll walk a little bit ways out there. We're pretty also fortunate to have this really nice irrigation canal out here. We've got some nice wildflowers, and we actually have a little duck family that calls this area home. As we walk onto this side of the bridge, the first building you might notice is actually our outdoor raccoon enclosure. And so we'll actually be able to go take a quick peek inside, and this is where we'll be moving our raccoon patients once they're ready to go out into the outdoor enclosure.
So this is our outdoor raccoon enclosure. You might remember that we did have raccoons living in here that we recently released this past spring. We are kind of in the process of cleaning it up a little bit before we have our new raccoon patients moving in here. So while it may just look like a lot of empty land out here and some construction going on, a big project that we're breaking ground on this summer is building almost 10,000 square feet of outdoor wildlife enclosures. These enclosures are absolutely essential for us to be able to take in native wildlife. For example, raptors like eagles, hawks, and owls actually require a flight cage that can condition them for getting ready for release. So actually out there on that far side of the property, we're raising funds to build a 72-foot long outdoor raptor flight enclosure. We spent many months of the last year planning for the construction of these outdoor wildlife enclosures. There's a lot of different things that we had to take into consideration, especially when we're thinking about making sure that these animals are getting prepared for release back into the wild. We were extremely fortunate to be granted a $96,400 matching challenge grant from Hedco Foundation for the construction of these outdoor wildlife enclosures. Because this is a challenge matching grant, our goal is to raise $96,400 as well. Your donation of any amount will have double the impact thanks to this challenge matching grant. And we're also offering opportunities for recognition, including naming of the enclosures, recognition on donor boards, and sponsorship. Think Wild greatly appreciates contributions of any form for helping us with these outdoor wildlife enclosures. That includes financial contributions and then also volunteering your time. If you have any kind of experience in construction, contracting, or metalwork, we would greatly appreciate your help in building these outdoor enclosures. By the end of this year, we're actually hoping to have 3 major outdoor enclosures built out here. That will include the raptor flight cage, a waterfowl enclosure, and then also a corvid enclosure. We're very, very thankful to the help of DE Ring Construction and Allied Buildings because they're helping us with the construction and erection of these giant outdoor wildlife enclosures. If you or anyone you know is interested in helping out financially or through volunteer work with the construction of these enclosures, please share our information with them. We are always happy to have community members and local businesses come out here to the Think Wild facility for a tour so they can learn more about what we do and see our plans for the outdoor wildlife enclosures. Thank you for joining us on this virtual tour of our wildlife hospital and for listening to us tell you about our need for our outdoor wildlife enclosures.
And good luck on your next round of trivia. Afterwards, we're going to show you some behind the scenes footage of our day-to-day animal care.